Claire McGovern heads up Rhyme, a multidisciplinary, sustainable interior design and furnishings manufacturer based in New York City. Born and educated in Dublin, McGovern began her career in California as an interior designer and art advisor. Her first business was an acclaimed art and design gallery, which evolved into the design studio she operates today from Brooklyn. In 2018, her studio debuted a collection of responsibly made Irish wool carpet and tapestry designs, and today is the sole entity inside or outside of Ireland promoting the use of native Irish wool for carpet amidst a collapsed Irish woolen market. Hey, Claire, thanks so much for joining me on the Sustainability Champions podcast. Great to have you on the show. Of
Great to be here, Daniel. Thank you.
course. So the way I like to start these conversations is by going big picture and getting an understanding of what it is that you do. So easiest way to do that is with little elevator pitch. So what is Rhyme?
So we are a multidisciplinary studio. We're based in Brooklyn. We have a production facility in Ireland, and we practice sustainable interior design. We have a growing Irish wool carpet and tapestry collection. I would call it biofiber, eco-fiber Irish wool design collection. And we also represent a couple of artists. So three tiers of service: interior design, very sustainably focused, sustainable design manufacturing collection, and then also an art advisory.
Very cool. It sounds like you get involved in quite a broad range of activities. And how did you get into interior design?
So I was born and raised in Dublin, and all of my formal education is from Ireland. I would have to credit my father, who was an architect, with really fostering an interest in, architecture and design. At an early age, worked as a teenager in his office in Dublin. But wound up focusing more on art and studying art history, eventually moved to California, specifically San Francisco, where I started out in the museum and art gallery world, and ultimately kind of branched into interior design. One of the most influential jobs I actually got at the beginning of my career was with a very celebrated boutique interior design firm in San Francisco. So that kind of really set me on the path for ultimately founding my own business, which has always been a synthesis of interior design, art, and design manufacturing as well.
And what led you to Irish wool, or as you're calling it, bio and eco fiber, which I'm curious to know what that means. But if we start with how you got there.
So basically, I worked, I cut my teeth as an interior designer in San Francisco, and ultimately wound up starting my entrepreneurial days with an art and design gallery that I founded in the Mission. So with that in mind, it was a novel concept at the time, where our mission was to really present a holistic representation of the arts, and not just fine art and sculpture, or it being limited to that. We wanted to show how design could also be art as well, and that, in today's world, you can't really, qualify in any classical sense what constitutes design or what constitutes art. So it was very much a holistic approach, creating different interiors for different exhibitions. It was a wonderful time, and that's how I started my business, directing this gallery, which I ran for 5 years before I translated it into a consultancy. But during that time, I would say, as an Irish immigrant in San Francisco, I became very aware how, the concept of Ireland was really quite a traditional one in terms of the arts and culture and theatre that would have been known specifically in Northern California, which was our demographic reach. So I wanted to do something about that and really present more of a contemporary sense of Irish art. And given the cultural evolution and history of Ireland, you can make an argument for the case that design just didn't develop in Ireland the way it did in other European countries. So we wound up producing and curating a number of exhibitions that were all about showcasing, Irish artists with emerging furniture designers. And at that point, after a couple of those exhibitions, I realized I was definitely going to start making a collection in Ireland someday that would celebrate the thousands of years of craftsmanship and history that is so specific to Ireland.
Very cool. And so Irish wool, going back to the sustainability side of things, I mean, you introduced it as bio or eco fiber. So what about it makes it so bio, eco-friendly, sustainable?
Well, it's such a long story, and I think a very interesting one. I certainly, and from a point of view of sustainability and design and really pursuing action in that arena, I certainly was inspired by my life in California. I feel Californians really understand that culture and they really promote it. So when it came time, after eventually we're based in New York and Brooklyn now, of course, a client project brought us to New York, but when we started to prototype and research sustainable materials that would be of the landscape in Ireland in about 2016, 2017, and we kind of organically came across Irish wool, and of course, having designed carpets and tapestries for various interior design projects, we're like, well, we'll start with this material. And so from that point on, was quite the discovery of, frankly, when we got going, I had no idea how unsustainable the global carpet industry is, and how, of course, that's also inextricably bound up with the global fiber and textile market. So they kind of go hand in hand. And so we realized after a couple of years, having debuted the first limited edition design collection in New York in 2018, we realized that nobody else in Ireland was using Irish wool. In fact, nobody was even, using it to make carpet at all. It was primarily non-native materials, either New Zealand wool for carpet that was being imported to Ireland, or for the textile market, almost exclusively wool from the Southern Hemisphere again, which is Australian merino. So the reason why it's, this incredible eco biofiber, it's just become, there's so many factors at play, but it's just wool, I think, it's just a very misunderstood fiber today in the interiors and design world. So many people we find aren't even aware of these extraordinary properties it has, like literally, I can outline a list of them, but one that's, particularly compelling is that in the right proportions, it will purify the air in your home. We don't see a lot of people talking about this at all. Certainly some core people in the industry, which are on our level, but in terms of the consumer at large, and also the specifier, the designer, the architect, it's, these are qualities that we're not hearing people are very aware of yet. So that kind of became really it was a funny thing that it fell into our lap, so to speak, because the collection we wanted to make as sustainable as possible. So all of a sudden we became the purveyors of an Irish wool that nobody else was willing to work with. And in 2020, the market for it collapsed. So all of a sudden, Irish wool was deemed worthless on the international stage.
And with that collapse, I mean, did that help you from a pricing point of view, if it became worthless like that?
Well, it's a funny thing. I mean, again, I think maybe to illustrate further the complexity of what we found ourselves in the middle of was, all of the factors caught up with the agricultural industry, the sheep farming industry, the perception of that. So basically wool is very misunderstood, and it has, you know, a host of these extraordinarily scientifically proven properties. The sheep industry alone is something that I would say, not just in Ireland, but globally, farmers are only incentivized to breed sheep for their meat. So what has happened in that sense is that, you know, the care for the quality of fleece, and sheep have to be shorn for their health once a year, the care has deteriorated. And so that has resulted in, of course, for our carpet and tapestry line, we work with one of the best quality wool fibre that comes out of Ireland, which is also organically farmed, another important consideration for us. But there is, you know, a side of this, which is, you know, the standard of wool fibre has plummeted over the last few decades because of this incentive to only keep sheep for their meat. And so, I mean, this is like just one example of how, I suppose, ingrained, you know, the unsustainable qualities of this market situation are. Another factor is that in 1960, I mean, I should preface that in medieval times, wool was the #1 trading fiber. Of course, was practically the only fiber known. Maybe flax, which of course is, you know, the foundation for linen, was also known at that time. But just to give you an example, that was in medieval times. In 1960, nylon was invented. Now, nylon is the, you know, progenitor of the synthetics revolution. And so with that, I mean, in the case of Irish wool, and then the rise of merino, which Australia almost exclusively dominates the market worldwide for merino now, it was deemed that Irish wool for apparel, it was too scratchy on the skin. So it fell out of favor. Now, of course, we use it, and it has an incredible provenance and works wonderfully for carpet and tapestry and will last a lifetime in your home. But for the fashion industry, which is the primary driver of decisions for the fiber market, you know, only merino currently is considered acceptable as a traded fiber. And that has had such a detrimental impact, I think, as well on the global market for wool. So those are just some of the factors. I mean, you know, the other aspect, I think, of the industry at large is that, you know, in the last 60, 50 years, the way in which manufacturing, you know, has evolved is a very unsustainable kind of paradigm now. I mean, you know, obviously there are China and other, you know, like Far East countries, they, you know, dominate like certain industries worldwide, and products are shipped all over the world every day. So I think it's, you know, a combination of all of these factors that have just, you know, we're finding is there's just so much work to be done, I think, in really producing and standing by a very sustainable, like carpet tapestry, you know, product line.
Yeah, and if speaking of sustainable carpet and tapestry, you mentioned a little bit ago that the carpet industry is highly unsustainable, at least conventionally speaking, and it's tied to the global fiber and textile market, which I suppose is also unsustainable. I certainly know that the fashion industry is one of the most polluting industries in the world. So, but carpet and tapestries are it's not really fashion, but I suppose it's related to the same material. So I'd be curious to know, if we just to get some context, what are some of the glaring issues in the carpet industry? And I personally find this interesting because I don't know anything about the carpet industry, and I don't really think about carpets. As we were talking about before we were recording, you know, the airline industry gets so much heat, and yet maybe the carpet industry is causing even more damage, and no one's talking about it just because no one really thinks about it.
Sure. I mean, I think so much of the issue, and really leading sustainable change at this point in our society is like just currently the sheer lack of metrics on how sustainable or unsustainable certain, standards of whatever, industry or creation, we just don't know yet. I mean, so in terms of the global fiber market, which we've been, advocating is drastically in need of reform for the last few years, there's a complete and utter dependency on synthetics, and fiber being so inextricably caught up with fashion, you could basically say the same of fashion, the bare statistics are in the global fiber markets, over 70% of global fibers traded are synthetics. Of course, you cannot make synthetics without fossil fuels. So, and they have no credible recycling concept. I mean, there's just been so much greenwashing over the last few years, and there are absolutely more and more people really standing up and, meaningfully with integrity, trying to create change. But the truth is, focusing on carpet product and industry alone, the carpet market is flooded with synthetic fiber products. Now, these are, extremely cheaply priced, of course. And again, they really, while companies might claim they can be recycled, they really can't, and they are not. I mean, absolutely, the majority of synthetic fibers wind up in landfill, either as carpet or clothing. That's the bare truth. So, as we always say, just like fast fashion, there is fast furniture. And of course, now my design studio is abundantly aware of how much, of an aspect of fast carpet there is to the industry we're inhabiting lately. So, I mean, one of the things we're doing, obviously, is we're quite focused on the North American market at the moment, even though we're making all of these designs in Ireland. We're distributing them across the US, and I can tell you that in America alone, 89% of carpet goes to landfill. So I think about 5% is currently recycled.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, of course, there's hope on the horizon. For example, the New York governor just put in January, passed a bill, I think, which is pushing or mandating that carpet manufacturers, have to step up, and that I think ultimately 30% of carpet is going to be recycled. I mean, it's better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But, obviously we're very focused on our carpet and tapestry collection. It's eventually going to evolve into more multidisciplinary media and furniture design. I mean, I can tell you that in 1960, Americans threw away 2 million tons of furniture, and today it's more than 12 million tons. So, I mean, there's just no regulation, and that is, I think, part of a huge problem, that we're facing until things are more regulated. And I think, until people are really focused on the fact that in these developing countries where there is absolutely no regulation for what they're making from a point of view of, pollution or anything, or if they're making something that can be genuinely recycled, until I think, the consumer is really ready to, take a stand on that kind of an issue, and we're not going to see any meaningful change.
Yeah, it sounds like similar challenges to things like the fashion industry, and where you really need to see government regulations to start making the real push. Although I imagine with enough education, consumers will start to demand it. It's probably, just echoing what I said a little earlier, I think people are more aware of fashion and the challenges environmentally and socially associated with the entire supply chain of fashion.
Right.
But I would imagine, at least, I've never thought about carpet, which I think is an indicator of sort of the PR around it, but clearly, 89% of carpet going to landfill, that's a lot of material. And to your point, most of it is synthetic. So that's just essentially plastic going into.
Right.
So I think education is a really crucial component here in getting that change to happen, kind of starting from the ground up.
Yeah, I mean, another few things I could add are the fact that, I mean, in furniture design, as with furniture or carpet design, there is so often a combination of materials. So the perception, of course, in the carpet industry is that for like massive commercial buildings, it might be ordering hundreds of thousands of carpet, that you have to have some kind of synthetic fiber in that mix in the carpet in order for it to be durable. But I mean, realistically, it's just like furniture when there's in a chair, if there are multiple materials involved in its fabrication. I mean, that stuff is not getting recycled. You can't, at the end of its natural life cycle, separate out these materials, or there's no government focus or funding for that kind of thing. So ultimately, there's no incentive for any entity to take the time to break down a piece of furniture or, and like separate it into its relative original components so it could be recycled. And with carpet, when it's all woven together and it's got the latex backing, I mean, it's next to impossible, so what we do, because obviously we're more on the luxury end of carpet and tapestry design, and it's all like 100% wool, which will, with the appropriate care, will last a lifetime. We've got a natural latex glue, which is tapped from the tree without damaging the tree as the binder. And then we use a natural cotton linen backing. So these are all, it's 100% almost organic, but all natural. And so that can be recycled, at the end of its useful life cycle, notwithstanding the fact that the right quality of wool will, like last a whole lifetime. Potentially. The other aspect of what we do is that we're making our designs in the country of origin to where the material is sourced. So I would say our competitors in the contemporary carpet design world, the dominant paradigm of manufacturing to that is that many of them will be using New Zealand wool. Almost all of them have factories in developing countries such as Nepal or India, where they are no doubt maintaining the livelihoods of many families associated with their factory, but they are paying third world wages. So in any case, they will, a standard could be shipping New Zealand wool, which is favored for the more luxury quality carpet design, and shipping that to Nepal or India. And then if it's a carpet that's sold in San Francisco, goes from Nepal to San Francisco. So that whole process as well is something that really needs to be focused on. It's, not sustainable.
Absolutely. And there's the environmental and also the social costs of that. And so counter to that, what is your process?
So I mean, a lot of what we're doing, it certainly began with the love of Ireland, which is dear to me, but also a desire, I think, to develop a more contemporary interpretation of what Irish design might be. And now the reason why that's a more complicated situation for Ireland is because of the colonial past, and the design industry just didn't develop the way I think you can see in like France and Italy and England by contrast. But so our process is, Galway Wool, this wonderful coalition of sheep farmers now that just came together in the last couple of years. They are our primary source now for our wool fiber. So the Galway is Ireland's only heritage purebred sheep. It would also be the original Aran sweater yarn. And sadly today, you go to Ireland, you buy an Aran sweater. It is not made from Irish wool. It's made from Australian merino. So this is something that a lot of people are not aware of still. But the Galway sheep farmers and my studio are very united on these kinds of principles. We're focused on making a difference and removing this aspect of false advertising that is so endemic in the Irish knitwear world. So Galway sheep farmers are also organic, which is very important, I think. And it's a gorgeous sheep. It's also probably one of the happiest sheeps in Ireland. They're really well taken care of and cared for in terms of animal husbandry. So the wool comes from there. And then we also work with several historic woolen mills, which, was, again, when we started out, this was part of the process. How do we celebrate the thousands of years of history and base designs on, stories as compelling as a 1600-year-old tree alphabet, architectural tree alphabet, or 7th century Irish art. So the wool is shipped from cleaned originally in as sustainable as manner as possible, and then it would be processed mostly for us by Donegal Yarns, which is gorgeous, long-standing woolen mill in a really beautiful part of Ireland. Kerry woolen mills, another historic woolen mill, and Cushendale, 1,000-year-old woolen mill. These have also been involved in our process. At Donegal will card and spin the wool for us, and eventually we will have a dyer take care of any dyeing or coloring for specific designs. We are really focused on promoting wool in its most sustainable form these days, though, which is undyed. And ultimately, once the wool is ready and, basically on the skein, we will ship, this material and fiber to our studio, where currently we're practicing a method of hand tufting. So it is set up on the loom. We have a loom that we project the designs on, and we will hand tuft, basically, whatever size of rug or pattern we're creating at the time. It's a process that takes about 6 to 8 weeks, usually, for a standard work.
Wow. Well, this whole process sounds like it's, first of all, sustainable and very slow, as opposed to fast carpet, as you called it. And also it sounds like it's made with a lot of love, which I think means each piece is quite special, and it's more than just something you buy at a big box store, to cover some floor that you don't want to look at. This is a truly special piece that has a lot of meaning, and not only is I believe you mentioned custom design, but also the process is steeped in rich Irish history, which is, I think, very special.
Thanks. Yes. One other thing we've been promoting with so we have a couple of types of collections that are both basically based on this ancient architectural alphabet I mentioned. It's called Agam. The collection we promote is the name is Om. So also another word that has thousands of years of kind of history. We focus a lot on words and the importance, I think, of that in terms of neuroaesthetics, which is a very interesting growing division in design. And really, it's so in terms of designing for wellness in the home, which is something we're very focused on. We posit it's not just about the quality of the manufacturer you're buying from, the quality of the design, how it's made, or the material. It's also, why can't it be about what the design represents? So with this Agam collection we have, it's theoretically a carpet design that can spell any word, and we've done custom installations that basically represent the word health, which is a carpet as area rug or a custom stair runner. Other words are shelter or protect or welcome. So this is loosely what neuroaesthetics is moving towards is really what is the meaning and artistic value of the design you're bringing into your interior.
And so as you continue to grow and expand and look towards the future, what's next for you and the team at Rhyme?
So we are we're looking to still kind of in conversations with a lot of details to work out, but potentially our first sustainable Irish hotel project might be getting
Cool.
off the ground in the next 6 to 12 months, which is quite exciting.
That's
Will be
awesome.
yeah, Irish wool will be playing a role in that for sure. We're very focused, I think, on looking for clients as well who are really interested in, developing sustainable interior design. So again, not just about, the sustainability of everything you bring into a home, but, how the material performs. I mean, this is, it's, I suppose, been a harmonious kind of coalescence of our interior design practice with wool as what we regard now as nature's miracle fiber. So, I mentioned air purifying. It has all of these qualities. I mean, of course, it's renewable, biodegradable. It's antimicrobial. It actually anti-dust mite, which is another thing that it's just not known. I mean, we find
Yeah.
ourselves when we do presentations to clients, it's always kind of a situation where we're educating them
Hmm.
about some qualities. Wool as a fiber is the only fiber that has a natural flame retardance and moisture resistance built in. And flame retardance is huge because that would be a big thing, I think, in the fiber and textile industry, that in order to render a material okay or acceptable for commercial space, there would be a flame retarding process, which is very polluting and very obnoxious. So these are, other aspects of how, of course, wool is just misunderstood. Why wouldn't the global design industry be utterly focused and moving towards really promoting wool when it has all these natural qualities, so those are some of the projects we're focused on, and ultimately we have about one exhibition a year. 2024 will be our next one in New York City. So there's a lot of interesting projects on the horizon.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting. And yeah, thanks for going through all the benefits of wool. I mean, it makes me want to potentially wear an itchy sweater again. Um, Although, yeah, that's merino wool. But
There are
yeah,
a handful of designers in Ireland who are it's growing, and they're aware of this false advertising, and then they have gone back to using native Irish wool, but
oh, fantastic.
still not, the major knitwear brands and the major retail outlets, that's still all merino wool. So, but it's changing, I think.
Yeah, one step at a time. And I think to your point about education, that's really where things start to move forward, is when people really understand and learn. I think most of the issues that we're facing are really just an educational kind of gap. It's a knowledge gap rather than, some other issue frequently. Um, but it sounds like you have some very exciting projects ahead. Good luck with the hotel. Fingers crossed, because that sounds like a great opportunity. And
Yeah.
for anyone who wants to learn more about Rhyme, or if they're interested in a bespoke rug or carpet, or just learning about the work that you're doing outside of specifically carpets and in terms of interior design and working with the artists, where can people learn more about you, your work, social media, etc.?
Yeah, so I'm pleased to say we literally just launched a brand new website home,
Cool.
and that was a lot of work, and it's I'm pretty pleased with how it's looking right now. So that's rhymestudio.com, and it's a good showcase now, I think, for this division of services we offer. sustainable interior design. Then it has all of the various design carpet tapestry design collections, all united with their stories, because we believe all worthy design is sustainable and also based on a great story. So it's all there. In the wool design category now, we have an emerging textile collection, also Irish wool, being faithful, of course, to the material we're working with. And then we have rhymestudio.com is also home to the artists, the two artists we work with right now. One of Ireland's finest sculptors, Helen O'Connell. Check out her work, and also an oil painter, Ian Sheldon. So yeah, Instagram is Rhyme Studio Art.
Excellent. Well, Claire, thank you so much for your time and for talking through this with me. I think it's fascinating, and it's great to learn about the impact that you're having in an area that I haven't considered much, but clearly there's a lot of work to be done when it comes to interior design, and especially carpet and tapestry. And I'm really glad to hear that you're taking action and bringing things, first of all, shortening the supply chain, but also really focusing on changing the sustainable, the environmental impact of the carpet and tapestry industry. So best of luck as you continue, and thanks again for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And we're always interested in collaborations, so delighted to have anyone to reach out to us.
Excellent. Good to know. Thanks again, Claire.
All right, thank you.